But the biggest piece of advice I heard was that fear is antithetical to creativity, and fear freezes you. And on M3GAN, it was a very, very challenging movie, and every day it felt like like it's a cult hit now, but at the time it was like, oh my God, it's going to be this goofy, janky puppet movie, because making her look slick was really hard. It's just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, why on earth I thought this would be a good idea? But through the magic of movie making, she became kind of like, oh yeah, I won't use the part where she's wobbling, and and then she'll have this presence about her. And so,
welcome to Third and Fairfax, the official podcast of the Writers Guild of America West. I'm your host, Brian Gary. In our latest episode, host Jasmyne Peck speaks with M3GAN 2.0 screenwriter-director Gerard Johnstone about upgrading horror fans' favorite robotic doll, the creative challenges of making sequels to hit movies, and much more. Listen and subscribe to Third and Fairfax on Spotify, Apple, or Libsyn, and watch us on the Writers Guild of America West's YouTube channel. And now, here's Jasmyne in conversation with Gerard.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jazz Peck. I am a writer and a proud WGA member, and I'm here today as your host of Third and Fairfax, the WGA's podcast about what's good in the industry right now. I'm super excited to be talking to Gerard Johnstone, a writer, director, and father of perhaps the biggest universal monster since the Wolfman, M3GAN, in anticipation of his new film, M3GAN 2.0. Thank you for being here today, Gerard.
thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
I'm so excited. As you were building the story of M3GAN 2.0 out into the script, just taking it from M3GAN to this new concept with Akela Cooper and James Wan, what was your process?
Well, the process was essentially, I didn't actually work with Akela on the script. On the first film, essentially what happened was, on the first movie, I think it was like 2018, I got the script, and Blumhouse had been sending me a lot of scripts. And they were all kind of like horrors, and it's like I was in this lane that I didn't know how I quite got in, but the script for M3GAN came along, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. This has the potential to kind of like be something really interesting and say something about the moment that we're in. And it was a really great kind of modern fairy tale about this person who doesn't know how to, suddenly has to take care of this kid, doesn't know how to do it, uses this creation of hers to do it. And I was a new dad, dealing with like how to be a parent and going through a lot of the same things. And I just thought, this is really interesting, and thought that there was an opportunity here to play around with the tone. That script was a very straight horror film, but James was very encouraging. It's like, do your thing with it. Like, we love your first film, Housebound, and the way you combine comedy and horror. So I was looking for opportunities to do that, while at the same time create this this iconic character of M3GAN and think, well, how's she going to look? What's she going to wear? What's she going to say? It was a real fun sandbox to play in. And so with the second film, it was a little bit of an, the same kind of thing. Like, what can we say that hasn't already been said? And James and Akela had the idea of M3GAN going up against another doll, and I thought, that's great. That's really cool, because so many people just loved M3GAN and felt like she was their hero, even though she was the villain, which is different than Freddy Krueger or any of those sort of iconic characters. They're great villains, but no one thinks of them as heroes. And so in a way, it just felt like it was really obvious that we had to make this kind of a redemption story. But what I wanted to do was take it out of the world of toys and say, well, if this technology really exists, the military would be the first people to kind of pick it up. And so that's right. And so and that just made the world seem so much bigger, and that felt like a really fun sandbox to play in.
When you're writing, do you have a preferred structure? Are you a 3-act guy? Are you a 4-act guy? 8 sequences?
Yeah, I am a big writer science guy. I feel like it's the only thing that helps me just get through the day and just stop. It stops you from unraveling. You have that structure to rely on, and I do really want to know where it's going. At some point in my career, I'd love to experiment not knowing where it's going. But right now, especially when you're on a deadline,
Yeah, of course.
it seems very
when the studio's
irresponsible.
calling you like, hey, where's
That's right. How are you getting on? And it's like, at least you can say, well, I have a theme, you know. And so yeah. I mean, the first thing I did was like think long and hard about why I'm making this movie. That it, you know, because it was I didn't do it to cash in. Obviously, it was helped that so many people loved the first film and wanted a second story, so that really helped. But then from there, it was just still really important that it was about something and it had something to say. And the same with the first film, had something to say. So wanted to get that down. And then in terms of the writing, like a lot of time was spent thinking about the arc, what the story could be. Maybe not 3 acts necessarily, but definitely just the outline and the whole thing, and trying to look at that objectively. But then that can really get you into trouble because it's quite restrictive, and you're operating on the cerebral level, and so then I start thinking, well, where are the songs? Where are the dances? Where are those moments that people are, So it's almost like I have to put that to one side and then just start kind of like freestyling and thinking about fun things M3GAN could do and say in this new world, and so that's kind of how I do it.
That's awesome. And you mentioned comedy and horror. How do you go about like striking a balance between the two things in your screenwriting?
Well, I think it is exactly as you said, balance. It's just like, is this too funny, or is there comedy, especially in these films, without tension? It just falls flat. And on the first film, it struck since I started with Housebound, really, that was the big learning curve for me. I came from comedy, and then I had this funny idea for a horror film, like a woman stuck on home detention, stuck in a house with her insufferable mother that also happened to be haunted, and that was, to me, was a funny idea. But I had just come off writing and directing a comedy series.
Jackie Brown, right?
Jackie Brown, yeah. The Jackie Brown Diary. Jackie with a Q, so as not to be mixed
right,
up
different.
With,
with a different
one. And so I shot that film like a comedy, and there was no tension, and it was all just quips. It was just like Kylie walking into a room and taking her mother down with these acerbic quips, and I remember watching it in the edit thinking, oh my God, this movie has no soul. Like it's not anything. It doesn't breathe. And I was so depressed, and then but the saving grace was the movie wasn't finished. We had shot. It was only $200,000 that we had to shoot that film. And luckily, it wasn't finished. So it was. I was like, either I could give up, that's an option. I could just give up,
sure,
or we could figure out a way to finish it. And on the way to finishing it, I could really learn about how to make this better and learn my craft as a director more. And so I watched like 100 horror movies and just really tried to understand the genre. And I, just went to the movies a lot more. And I remember watching, the Cary Fukunaga's Jane Eyre, and just thinking, oh my God, this movie has so much atmosphere and it just breathes. And that movie was a really big inspiration as we went back into reshoots. So it's just trying to make this movie have a soul. And at the same time, all of those movies, those horror movies I watched, and James Wan's movies, Insidious and Conjuring, they were right up there, like really understanding how he did scares and how he was using the camera. And so as I've gone through this, it's on the first M3GAN, certainly it's about being mindful of doing those two, like treating those two genres, I think, with equal respect.
Yeah.
You have a lot of just sensational references in M3GAN 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
You talked about Terminator 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw some Strange Days also.
Oh, okay. Okay. Without giving spoilers, can you say?
The Alton scene.
Oh, yes. Great.
There's
a
little bit of that. There's Bruce Lee, of course, which is delicious reference. And when you're going to like marry things that you love with your script, how do you find a way to maintain your originality?
I don't know. I think somehow, it's funny because I think there's no new ideas and no new stories. But I do think that even things we think of as being highly original, like, you know, you think of Tarantino and Ryan Coogler, and these films are like such, you know, breaths of fresh air, but you can kind of see their references at the same time. But that doesn't take away from what they're doing with it, because we are all like a product of our culture and our upbringing and the things that, you know, got us excited. And so I kind of like I'm quite happy to, you know, wear my influences on my sleeve a little bit, but see how I can be creative within that and subvert expectations, and not do it so that it's just a plain knockoff, but, you know, I'm taking a little bit of Wes Craven, or I'm taking a little bit of Sam Raimi, or I'm taking a little bit of Verhoeven, and somehow that's all adding to like a rich sort of like tapestry, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Being able to point things out that feel familiar and fresh at the same time is so fun for audiences also.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't realize until you see it. Like, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird was a huge influence on me as a kid. And I didn't realize until after I had actually finished Housebound that someone pointed that out, that there was a clear line. It's like, oh my God, of course there is. It's like that was that book. That was like the first proper book I read, and so it clearly, you absorb these things sometimes just subconsciously.
That's amazing. And also taking something like so deeply foundational that seems on its head quite far away from what you're doing, and then turning it into and infusing it in the spirit of what your intention is really cool.
Yeah, and you know, the Terminator wasn't really at the forefront of my mind at all. I think it was a bigger influence for James.
Yeah.
But for me, it was only after I had sort of made my kind of M3GAN redemption story, and that was all there, that someone was saying, I think when the public got a sense of what we were doing, they were like, oh, they're doing Terminator 2. And I was like, oh yeah, well, but I will point out, it's like, you know, M3GAN is the killer robot that learns, you know, that is supposed to evolve and redeem herself, whereas Terminator 2, it's a completely different machine.
Yeah, he's not quite as emotionally intelligent, some might say.
That's right. And if you want to really get into the weeds, then Dark Fate, maybe. It's like that obviously is a killer robot that learns a different path, but I didn't see that until after I'd already started writing.
I haven't seen it at all. So.
That wasn't on your research list?
No, it wasn't on my research list. I skipped that one. I'll go back and watch it now. How do you prepare for a pitch when you're getting ready for it?
I will say on this, I didn't have to pitch.
Right.
That was what was so great about this experience, really, is that I didn't have to work for it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, at the same time,
I mean, you put in the work.
Yeah,
but
at the same time, it is weird. It's like I remember thinking when I was going to make the movie, thinking, oh, I wish I had pitched, because I would have more answers going into prep. So it was like a real rush to kind of get my deck together and figure out what M3GAN was. Normally, you know, back before M3GAN, when I was pitching on things, I would have to. It's very visual, so I get my deck together. And if it's one of those films that relies on that, but otherwise I like to almost have everything figured out. I've gone into enough of the stuff that makes it juicy. Like making sure that I have a point of difference, but it's really hard. And coming from New Zealand, it's so removed from Hollywood, and the high functioning way people operate here is it's very foreign to us. So it's a way of thinking and behaving that takes quite a while for us to absorb, to be able to go into a room and have control of the situation. But you know, that is, as I learned, it's like that's kind of what directing is. So you know, you almost just have to do it. But it's always hard when you're wanting something from someone. You're not in a kind of a position of leverage, so it's somehow you know, confidence helps.
Yeah, confidence is always
that's right.
core
so getting it is it's easy to say that, but actually getting confidence is like sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, I've had disastrous pitches as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've had great pitches. I've actually had great and disastrous pitches for the same project.
Of
if
course.
I might have an amazing pitch to one executive, and then he's like, "Oh my God, we got to run you up the chain," and then you do the same. That's right. Like, and then you do the same pitch, and that person, for whatever reason, if they're not feeling it, it's like, "Oh my God," it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, and how have you recovered in the aftermath?
Yeah, I mean, well, in that situation, it was interesting because the person I was pitching to was like, yeah, I don't really, he's not very confident as a speaker, but he's got good ideas, and maybe we could let him write it. So, in that way, like I do. It's funny. I for a long time I thought of myself more as a writer than a director. Directing is a very I just love writing and creating, but directing is like watching your dreams get dashed, kind of like one by one, things you can't do, and it's just like it just seems like a big bag of compromises. So it's but I think it's the lesson for me in that is kind of like staying loose and being open to possibilities, and that it is a collaborative art form, and everyone will bring their own thing to it, and you get to watch this kind of like beautiful thing get birthed into life in that way, and just be open to surprises, but at the same time maintain the things that are really important to you.
From Jackie Brown to Housebound to M3GAN to M3GAN 2.0, a lot of your lead characters are very strong women. And so I would love to know your approach to writing from that perspective and things that you've discovered in that process.
Well, it's really funny. I feel like I've passed the Bechdel test, like 12 times over by now. But it's
Allison is proud.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of observing characteristics, and I never once thought, even when I remember when I was writing the Jackie Brown Diaries, it was, Jackie was a friend of mine, and I could see her struggling with her celebrity, but his celebrity status, and trying to figure out her way in the world, and it just helped that she was really funny herself, but she was, at that time, she wasn't incredibly self-aware of just how hilarious it was to hear her talk about getting invited to this thing or this disastrous interview, and why did I say that to I interviewed Exhibit, and it was like I tried to be on his level, and I dressed like I was in some Jennifer Lopez video, and like he was not amused, and she would be telling me all these things. I was like, fuck, this is so funny. This is, and because she's just trying, it's people trying to be something they're not, or trying to achieve a certain level of ambition. So it was like observation, I think was kind of key. But also, I just kind of wrote Jackie as me, and I write female characters the way they're just the way I think, and I don't really give any thought to the fact that they're female. Where I just think this person's ambitious, this person's a shit, this person is a terrible parent. These are all traits that I have, So it's like I just,
I'm sure the last one is true.
Well, I'm trying.
Everyone is trying.
That's right. So I just try not to put too much stock on it, and and I have found that people seem to really embrace that. But it is really funny. It's like when I go to write another character, my wife's like, "Does she have to be female? Is she got to be female?" It's like I hadn't even really thought of it that way. I mean, obviously, Akilah, full credit, she came up with the characters for M3GAN, so it was just coincidence. But there has been a. And actually, there's another one I'm doing that it's about. It's a middle-aged female protagonist. So it seems to be, I don't know. It's like I can't shake it.
Yeah.
But maybe it's some sort of good luck charm at the same time.
Maybe, yeah. I think also it might open up the characters to universality of like portrayal, and like a more direct depiction of personhood, to just like view them as yourself or view them as people.
Yeah. And it was really interesting. I've been in writers' rooms where female writers have tried to explain certain things to me, but I think that's kind of like says more about those particular writers than the way you should write a kind of a character. I think. I mean, I just try to have fun. And on the Jackie Brown Diaries, we had Jackie, and we had this other writer, Jodie, who just had insanely funny stories. And we just used to. That was I still say to this day, that's the most fun I've ever had making something. There was no pressure. It was our first thing. We didn't know if anyone was even going to see it. We just had the most fun. And I really think that's just that's the best way to write, is when you're just having a really good time. Yeah.
And I think some of the themes that are universal, like good parenting, or in M3GAN 2.0, there's like who is going to protect you and how do you learn to protect yourself, which is something that I feel like so many people nowadays in this particular climate are trying to learn. And then also like getting close to something that scares you in order to move forward. And I was curious, just like in your career, in your creativity, have you had to get closer to something that scared you to bring you to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with M3GAN was, what was really ironic about it was a movie about a person that's that's like not spending enough time with the children, you know, and that's really ambitious, and and they're not seeing the thing that's in front of them that is clearly so much more important. So as we do this, this career, it's like you have to be ambitious to kind of do it and to get ahead. And I'm constantly aware of that kind of forced impact between like, God, the sacrifice you're making by, just like I'm at the computer with my back turned to my children like for the first 6 years of their life, and that sucks. And I only just realized I could just change the position of my desk. So at least now they can see me from the side, and that's only just happened. I've only just really made that breakthrough. But yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest thing I put into it is just like swimming in that guilt for a little bit, and kind of putting that on screen, because I do want to be a better parent, and I do think about my kids' future and trying to make sure that I can give them as much of my time as possible and not ruin them. Look, it's been great because the film's come out and they've had some, it's done well, and they've had some really great experiences as a result of that. Thank God. Because if the film hadn't done well, that would have been a lot of sacrifice for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah. I got lucky.
So we did it.
I got very lucky. We're all good. We're good. Yeah.
It was recently announced that you are going to be directing Monster High with a M3GAN tie-in, perhaps.
Oh no! I think I read. Yeah, I saw that press release, and I also saw that there was a M3GAN Monster High doll, and I didn't even know.
Oh.
So I think there is a M3GAN Monster High doll, and it looks really cool. But I had no idea that.
Okay.
But no, there is not going to be.
There's no M3GAN tie-in.
No, there's. I think the thing with Monster High is what appealed to me about it was more that it's about these children of monsters, and it plays around with these kind of iconic movie monster characters of Dracula and Frankenstein and that kind of thing. And I realized, there's actually a really interesting kind of there's a few different ways we can come at this that made it. But it's like I didn't think about the fact that they were dolls at all, and choosing to do that movie.
And that's based on a toy series.
It's based on a series of toys. Yeah, they're the daughters of Dracula or the Mummy or Frankenstein, and yeah.
Does your approach to that IP change given that it's based on like toys versus like a book or video games or something like that?
I think well, a book is so much easier because if the book is good, it'll tell you what it's about.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas with IP, it's more of a case of, and often you say no to these things when it's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Why? And then they, but in the case of Mattel, they were like, the Barbie came out, and obviously, and I was like, yeah, but this isn't Barbie. But they're like, but you can do anything you want with it. Like, we're open. And it's like, ugh. And then I was like, wow, if I was to do it, and then the gears start turning, and you start thinking about, ways in, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and you should just say no. But on this one, it's like, oh yeah, I thought of a really cool way in, and I thought of a whole kind of like prologue to the story that got me really excited, and I was like, oh yeah, of course this is a movie. This could be a really great movie, and so that's why I went forward with it.
How far do you go with an idea before you're like, okay, I'm into it, or this is not for me?
I mean, like before I agree to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I have to be all in.
Yeah,
I have to totally be all in. And in the case of M3GAN, it was like, this could be a zeitgeist movie. That if I get to bring a robot to life. Like, how cool is that? Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I just thought that will be really fun. And I think, I think the success of that film does largely come down to we did a few things right with the look and design of that doll. I think that really carries it through. Yeah.
What is a piece of writing advice that you have received when you first started out that you still use today?
It's more. It was more the biggest thing. It wasn't necessarily just to writing, but the biggest piece of advice I heard was that fear is antithetical to creativity, and fear freezes you. And on M3GAN, it was a very, very challenging movie, and every day it felt like like it's a cult hit now, but at the time it was like, oh my God, it's going to be this goofy, janky puppet movie, because making her look slick was really hard. It's just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, why on earth I thought this would be a good idea? But through the magic of movie making, she became kind of like, oh yeah, I won't use the part where she's wobbling, and and then she'll have this presence about her. And so, but it was a really challenge. There were some heads of department on that film that were really. I had 3 very toxic people to deal with on that movie, and it was challenging. And I remember, myself and the producers were like, "Oh my God, we've hit the trifecta here. How have we gotten to this bad luck?" And I had people that tried to make me feel really kind of shitty about myself, which is weird. It's like I'm the steward of the movie. It's like most of the time people are like trying to give you all the support tools you need, but I had people that were really kind of. It was a lot of like, it got very psychological at times. And then afterwards I was like, oh my God, what? And I remember listening to a podcast with a psychologist talking about that's like, when you feel fear, you freeze, and just nothing good comes out of that. And I thought, I'm not going to give these people the satisfaction of like stopping me in my tracks and where I am. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to figure out a way forward, and I'm just not going to give a shit. And I just have to follow my gut, my instincts, and the fun. Like, I have to find the fun in this. Yeah. This is an amazing thing. I mean, Jesus Christ, I used to work in a meat factory, and I used to have to like cattle prod cows before they were killed. It's the worst. It was one of the most traumatic days of my life. And it's like, I thought I was going to have to do that at one point for the rest of my life. I don't have to do that job anymore. I get to make movies. This is an incredibly fun thing to do. So a lot of people get really stressed out in this business about, the financial side. Is the movie going to do well? Is it going to perform? Are people going to like this or that or whatever? But when you let just fear run everything, just nothing good happens. So I always try to be mindful of that.
Yeah. I guess we have some rapid fire questions for the final round. What is one pitching tip that you would share with someone?
One pitching tip that I would share with someone is maybe that they don't have to have everything figured out, just the really good things. Yeah.
And what works for you when you're trying to get rid of writer's block?
I think walks really help, long walks, and also writing down what it is you're trying to say without actually doing the scene. It's like, what do I want to get out of the scene? Why am I writing the scene? Like, approaching it that way, sometimes can unlock certain things.
Do you have a set walk route, or do you take a different route?
Oh my God, you have to take a different route.
Yeah.
And it's hard because we have a dog now, and so my wife is always like, "Are you going to take the dog with you?" I'm like, "No," because every 5 steps it's going to want to sniff something, or pee somewhere, and there's no flow that happens, and so I'm constantly trying to like skirt my dog walking duty so that I can just get a long, good flow.
What kind of dog is it?
It's cavoodle. I think you guys call them cavapoos, but that means something very different where I come from. Yeah, cavoodle.
Okay, well, we'll unpack that. What is the most unexpected place that you found inspiration for a script?
The most unexpected place I found inspiration for a script. God, that's a hard question. I think maybe sometimes it's like, recently it was Disneyland.
Okay.
Maybe that's an obvious one.
No,
but it was
I don't
the treehouse, the Adventureland treehouse. I was like,
the carved one.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this should be a movie. This is just amazing.
The tree for the
treehouse. It's like I want to live there. I want to live in that treehouse.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I see that. I feel like the next big Disney picture is treehouse.
Could be.
And what is the worst note that you've ever gotten on a script?
Oh my God, the worst note. Or maybe the worst. God, I don't know. There's been a lot, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Well, it's funny, and people would cop to this now as it was a mistake. But on M3GAN 1, it was like, don't have her sing. I don't think she should sing.
Huge.
A lot of people tried to talk me out of that.
The singing in this film, I like in M3GAN 2. And then I slid down in my chair because I was just so thrilled by the singing, the timing, and the choice of song.
Great.
Like
cool.
Truly, the choice of song we need to discuss because like particularly impactful for me. But they didn't want the singing.
No, in the first movie, it was just an unknown quantity. I mean, it was and they wanted Blumhouse wanted a horror movie, and they thought they were getting a horror movie, so there was an exec at Blumhouse. There's a couple of people that were like, what if we cut it just before she sings? It was just, because isn't it? And it's true. It was great. She up until that point, she played back a little message for Katie, and it was its own sweet little moment. But I just felt like, no, I want to take this to the next level. And it's a little bit the same thing. And it's like in the next one, although in the next one it was like, where can I put this thing that no one's going to be expecting it? And that's the kind of key. You almost got to forget that this is something M3GAN could do.
Is there any project out there that you are just dying to make, like a passion thing that you haven't gotten a chance yet to get out there?
There is something that I'm adapting at the moment. There's a script that I'm working on that I think could be really big. If I can crack it, I feel like it'd be really big. But there's no one kind of genre or type of thing. And I get asked this a lot when I come into meetings, like, what do you want to do? And it's like, I just for me, it's just like I just love all movies and all different types of movies, and it's really I think movies are magic, and when you get to make them different types of creating different types of moments, it's a real gift that we get to do this. And so, but no, I'm hoping that that this thing I'm writing comes together in the way I think it could. I think it could be really big.
How long has that project been with you?
It's been bubbling in the background for a few years. And I think I would have got onto it sooner had M3GAN not been a success and M3GAN 2 happened. But yeah. It's been bubbling in the background, but I haven't really been able to get my hands on it the way I want to.
Have you loved movies since you were little?
Yeah. It's really funny. Like people always talk about Star Wars and things like that, but for me it was like, I remember House Party being... you're probably too... I don't know if you're too young to...
I've seen House Party. Yeah.
Well... that was huge, like with me and my cousins. Like that movie was massive. We knew all the dialogue to that movie, and we would kind of like do the dance at parties and things like that. And so, I remember when we were taking these boring walks to town, it was such an arduous walk. We would just say we would just say all the dialogue from House Party to get us through. And we would play all the different characters. So that was...
It's great for a walk, honestly.
It's a great movie. So those were the kinds of things I love. Movies that played around with tone and were different than what you kind of expected it to be. But that Labyrinth, Princess Bride, those were the kinds of things that just, to me, there's just something about the Princess Bride that's just like, you don't know why it's as good as it is. It's just so magical. For me, that's always what I'm going for as well. It's like, I might not be the best, the most competent director out there, but if I can somehow have a hand in making a film that's someone else's favorite film, that would be great.
Well, I think you've definitely achieved that.
Oh, thank you.
So, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
I feel like that's a good note to end on.
Yeah, cool.
And we'll see M3GAN 2.0 in theaters on June 27th.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Third and Fairfax. You can listen and subscribe to Third and Fairfax on Spotify, Apple, and Libsyn, and watch us on the Writers Guild of America West's YouTube channel. If you like this episode or have a comment, email us at podcast@wga.org. Also check out writtenby.com, the Guild's online publication, for more on writer craft, career, and union life. And see you next time.